Hey Circuit, it is Gabby. It is so good to get to talk to you. Hey, as we start, I just want to let you know we miss you so much. We miss not getting to be together, to meet together, and I personally cannot wait until the day that we get to all be gathered together again. But just because we can't meet together, that doesn't mean Circuit is going to stop. In fact, next week, you're going to get to see a online Circuit service. So that means worship, that means a small message, that means a game. That's all going to be live on our YouTube channel at 7 o'clock. And then at 7:30, you're going to get the chance to do virtual small groups and meet online with your small group, just like you would on a Wednesday night. And so we'll be giving you more information for that, but just know, hey, just because this season looks different, it doesn't mean that we're going to stop meeting together. You know, as I was thinking about what I would sit here and say to you this week, really there's so much I could say because our situation is changing day by day and things look really uncertain. And in fact, you may be experiencing a lot of emotions right now, from anxiety to worry to loneliness to maybe fear of the future or even boredom. And so in this time of uncertainty, I think we need to remember, church, that there is so much reason to have hope and encouragement because we know who God is. And as I was thinking, I thought back actually to the message that we started this year of Circuit with, that we started out 2020 with. And what I thought of was how we talked about at the beginning of the year, that at the start of the year, we get these feelings of hope. These feelings of hope that maybe this year something will be different, that this year what we're hoping for will finally come true. And just 3 months later, wow, it was true, right? Things look really different. This year really is different, but not in the way that we were hoping for or expecting. So what do we do? How do we respond when things in fact are different, but they're not different in the way that we wanted? And I want us to look back at the story that we talked about at that first night and realize and recognize that the God that we talked about 3 months ago is the same God and does the same things even now today. And if you remember, we talked about the feeding of the 5,000 and how Jesus and his disciples just get done mourning and burying their friend and cousin, Jesus's cousin, John the Baptist. And it says, the Bible says that they want to go to a place to be quiet, to rest, to be alone. They're exhausted. They're probably grieving the loss of their friend. And as they reach the other side of the lake, what they find is not a quiet place. It's actually 15,000 people or so that have gathered together that want to hear something from Jesus. And even though Jesus is tired, even though he had wanted to just be alone and to get some rest, it says that Jesus has compassion on these people and he heals them. And he fills their needs. And in fact, he does that for so long that it gets to be late at night. And so the disciples come up to him and they say, hey, Jesus, we got to send these people away. They need something to eat. But Jesus looks at the disciples and he says, no, you give them something to eat. And the disciples obviously don't have a lot. And so Jesus goes, what do you have? And they say, well, we've got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Probably not even enough to feed the 12 of them. So Jesus takes what they have and he blesses it and he breaks it. And what we discover is that as the disciples pass out this food, it multiplies. And a miracle occurs before their eyes. And at the end of it all, 15,000 people eat with leftovers. And if you remember, Circuit, I asked you 2 questions that first night as we were looking with hope for the future, as we were picturing who we were going to be in 2020. And I said this first. I said, hey, do you believe that a miracle can come from what's in your hands? In this season right now, I bet we're focusing more on what we don't have than what we do have. I bet we're focusing more on the people that we can't see, the places that we can't go, the opportunities or experiences we're missing out of, the physical resources that we don't have, maybe even the jobs in your family that might be lost. In this season, it's easy to focus on what we don't have. But even just like the disciples who didn't have a lot, who looked at their hands and said, things are really scarce right now, out of that, God brought a miracle. So Circuit, what is in your hands? Maybe it is physical resources like food and finances that you can give to someone in need. Please do that. But it could also just be encouragement. It could also just be connecting with somebody who needs a connection, who's lonely. And you might look in your hands and you might see that capacity and you might think, hey, that's not enough. That's not enough to make a difference. That's not enough for a miracle to come from. But what we see is that when we offer God the little that we have, He takes it and He multiplies it and He makes it matter so much more. So Circuit, what miracles, what little things do you have in your hands that you can use to serve and to encourage in this season? The second question I asked you is, who needs to eat? Who needs to eat? Right? In this season, it's so easy to focus on our own needs, our own feelings, what we're going through. And it's easy to turn inward. And I want to encourage you, Circuit, that in this time when we want to turn inwards, that maybe we're spending a lot of time alone, so it's easy to look inwards, that we would actually turn outward. And that we would actually recognize that we have family members and neighbors and community members and friends that still need to eat too, just like the rest of us. That need someone to reach out to and to encourage them. Hey, the disciples and Jesus, they were tired. They had some needs going on inside of them, but they still stepped out. And can you imagine how encouraged the disciples were after they got to take part in something incredible that God was doing? In this season, we believe that God is still the God of miracles. That God is still the God that can do immeasurably more than all we ask or seek or imagine. That God is a God that works all things together for good. We still believe that in this season. And Circuit, we have the opportunity to be a part of that. We have the opportunity to not waste this season that we're in, to not just focus on what we've lost, but instead remember that God is making new things in this season. I believe, Circuit, that a miracle can come from a little youth group in Afton, Minnesota. I believe that miracles can come out of that, not because of who we are, but because of who God is. So that's my encouragement to you in this time as things change. As we might feel overwhelmed by this world, that we would remember that there is a God who is greater, who is bigger, who's calling us to join Him in what He wants to do in this season. Hey, we love you, we miss you, and I can't wait to connect again next Wednesday. We'll see you guys then.